In case you weren't part of the Strong Family reunion earlier in the back there, Stuart's here from, in case you say hi to him in the Time for Peace. And we also have an 83rd birthday today. Eleanor's friend there is, and she assures me she was baptized Methodist, so she's okay. If we could get a happy birthday. There's a golf tournament this Saturday, coming Saturday. Anything Mary Lou wants to say about that?
I do. This year is our 15th year in golf, but just to give you a little idea of how significant the golf tournament has been for us over the years, to date, without including this year, the golf tournament has raised $46,963.53 for the church. So if anyone would like to help, if anyone would like to still play, golf starting. Golf itself actually starts at 8, so we can be there by 7:30.
Okay, very good. And next Sunday, the church doors will be closed, unless there's rain, in which case we'll be here. But we will be at Jack Johnson's house, which is 8590 Brown Road. It's in the newsletter you should have gotten not so long ago. But that's at the end of Eastport Bay Road. If you go to the lake, you've gone too far, and you're probably also drowning. And it's a little off to the right. And he has a wonderful house with a great big porch that we can all have our service together and enjoy some refreshments afterwards in the lake breeze. Okay, any other announcements?
I'll just say one thing regarding that. You know, he does have a fair amount of bench seating area around the edge of his deck, but if you're able to bring a lawn chair, I suggest you bring it.
Yes, that is a good suggestion too. Thank you. Okay, any other announcements, highlights I might have missed? If not, then the peace of Christ be with you.
And also with you.
Gathering back again, and my worship leader, Sydney, will now read for us the call to worship.
Come on, children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord.
Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it.
You would please join Sydney once again in our prayer confession.
Merciful God, we confess that we have not been faithful children. We have not lived by your law. We have remained silent in the face of evil. We have not refrained from deceit. We have not followed the way of peace. We have not honored all that is true and good. We have been foolish and immature people who resist the holy wisdom you graciously offer. Forgive us our sin, O God, and lead us to sincere repentance. Through Jesus Christ. Amen. Hear the good news. Christ has offered himself as the bread of life to all who receive him. This proves Christ's love for us. In the name of Jesus Christ, you are forgiven. Thanks be to God. Videos and pictures to show you. So I'm going to ask all the kids to come up, young, old, in between kids. And some of them are going to be in the pictures you're about to see. Because this week I got to go to the Wayne County Fair, and there was a 4-H showing. And yeah, I told you guys I was going to embarrass you. Stop looking at me like that. And Kim, could you cue the pictures, please? They are, yes. Okay, there is Charlotte with her brown Swiss. What was the cow's name again?
Blossom.
Blossom, yes. There's Blossom the calf, and Charlotte is showing her in the special division. And what place did you win for her?
Grand champion.
Yeah, she was grand champion. All right, so next picture, please. And there is, is that David or Daniel in the picture I was trying to see? Daniel, okay, sorry, yes, no glasses, that's right. I couldn't see from afar. And you're leading your cousin Macy, and Sorry. Okay, I'll stop embarrassing you, hopefully. And that is a brown Swiss cow named Iris. And Noel? Noel, okay, it was Noel. And he was the reserve grand champ, so, you know, sister got first, he got second. No? She's in the brown Swiss, okay. Guernsey, Jersey? Jersey. I don't know a lot about cows. Well, you got third for showmanship, right? Yes, you got third for showmanship there. Good job. And you also got to be around your little cousin Macy for the junior league. Okay, next one. Yay, okay, there's David with Iris. Yes, there's Iris, and she's brown Swiss. Yes, okay, finally got it right. And yeah, you were the one who got the reserve grand champ, I believe, for that. Okay, and I'll almost stop embarrassing you now, but I'm going to show one more video. Can you cue that for me? Okay, well, actually, that was another picture. Yeah, there's. Okay, there we go. Yay! There's Mom shoveling things. Church. And in a moment, we'll probably see Dad run by too with his camera, which, you know, he was taking more photos than me. This is my iPhone covering this. Oh, here comes Dad. I see a shadow. Yay! So even your parents get to get embarrassed too. And okay, there's a helper. All right, so we're gonna see him do his thing, but believe it or not, this has something to do with the Bible in my very active imagination, because the scripture passage for today is Psalm 20, and there's a verse in it which says, "Some trust in chariots and some trust in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord. They will fall and collapse, and we shall rise up." And one of the things that really impressed me about this was that you guys had these calves from birth and raised them up, and they're a lot bigger than you. They weigh, what, 5 times as much? Like 200-300 pounds maybe? No, how much? 700? Okay, even more than I thought. Okay. And oddly enough, I'm actually afraid of cows that weigh 700 pounds. That's a lot bigger than me, and if they want to go somewhere, they could pull me anywhere they felt like. But because you had the discipline and hard work to raise them up and knew what you knew how to do, had confidence in yourselves, you could, do things by, willpower that I could not do. So that was something I thought was great, and I know our other kids have been around doing wonderful things this summer. Elise went to a drama camp and was in Alice in Wonderland, and I would have not have sung or danced at age 40, let alone age 5.5. And I know another kid, Sydney, was at a drama camp too. And Peyton, were you at any camps or doing any cool stuff this summer like that? Oh, really? Okay. All right. That's neat. And Sydney had a birthday. Yay! I told her I wouldn't embarrass her, but I am, because I'm a liar. She turned 12 this last month. Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought it was last week. But anyway. But we have not had an idle summer, and thank you guys for letting me embarrass you. And it was really fun to go to the fair and see what you could do. All right, let's close with prayer. God, we thank you that by your Spirit we can be even mightier than horses, be mightier than the war machines, chariots of the ancient world, or the ultimate war machine. But through faith and trust in you, we can be stronger and rise up and live in your will and your way. Help us to see you more clearly, love you more dearly, and follow you more nearly each day. Amen. All right, you can go back to the back where... 20, which is a song for victory, and I often read it when doing hospital visits with people, actually. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. It's, a psalm when there's a crisis and you just really need help. The Lord answer you in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob protect you. May He send you help from the sanctuary and give you support from Zion. May God remember all your offerings and regard with favor your burnt sacrifices. May God grant you your heart's desire and fulfill all your plans. May we shout for joy over your victory. In the name of the Lord our God, set up our banners. May the Lord fulfill all your petitions. Now I know that the Lord will help God's anointed. God will answer from His holy heaven and with mighty victories by God's right hand. Here's the verse I told the kids about. Some boast of chariots and some of horses, but we boast of the name of the Lord our God. They will collapse and fall, but we shall rise and stand upright. Give victory to us, O God. Answer us when we call. These are our scriptures for today. Thanks be to God. Please join me in a prayer of illumination on these scriptures and my message about them. O Lord, I pray that the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our heart be worthy in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Help us to stand tall in the midst of even great adversity and to know you are with us all the way. Amen. I was away in Michigan for the end of July, early part of August, so this week I did a lot of catch-up on my pastoral visits. The fun one, as I'm thankful the kids let me embarrass them just a little bit, was the Wayne County Fair and seeing all their hard work and catching up on life with the Merrill family too was a good time for that. Pete told me he got some ribbons at 4-H fair once upon a time, but never got the grand champ or any of those. So kids it's great to see when kids and grandkids can outdo their parents, but that's anyway, we'll talk about cows maybe later, Pete, and hear more about them, as I know there was some coaching and help in the raising of those champion calves there. But there were some less than fun or ideal visits too that I did this week, which happened to be in Rochester General Hospital. Last week I announced from the pulpit that Ken Van Fleet was doing a lot better and might be, if not home soon, kind of in a step-down rehabilitation facility after he had his heart valve replaced, and maybe then would go home in the near future. But lo and behold, when I went to Rochester General once again on Tuesday, his situation had gotten more complicated. It's better now, but on Tuesday when I came there, much to my surprise, I saw Carol and her daughter Deb were there with him, and he had some complications, not with the heart, but actually with the lungs. There had been some fluid which needed to be drained and some other things going on, so that he actually had to be in a medically induced coma. And he had a breathing tube down his throat, and there was what looked like, to my inexpert eyes, half a Radio Shack of equipment there in the ICU that was helping him breathe and carry on as normal. And so it was a little bit of a scary time, I know, obviously more so for Carol and Deb than me, but in the midst of that is when I read them that Psalm 20 that we had, which is, to say, a prayer for victory and for overcoming obstacles and opposition. And while we were waiting for the pulmonologist, the lung doctor, to come back with the latest diagnosis and analysis, Deb told me something that was very profound and wanted to share with you today. She said that we all pray prayers of deliverance or thanksgiving in the high points of winning a championship or doing well at something like a contest, or when things are low, when we're in a hospital or through the valley of shadow of death, we have to do that trek. We call upon God. But in some ways we miss out if we don't sort of look in the everyday moments, in the regular stuff that happens. There's, and this is, if you remember this, if nothing else from my sermon, an old musical called Godspell, which had a song in it called Day by Day, and the words say, day by day, oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray. 1, to see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, and follow thee more nearly. So that is the difference of, I think, a faith journey where we can, see God or focus on God in the midst of both the highs and the lows that make the rest of the journey meaningful or more hopeful when a crisis like that hits. Ironically, when I did some time as a hospital chaplain before starting my church work, and it was interesting to visit people in the hospital. And when you're in crisis, I find you don't often talk about profound things. There are exceptions to the rule, like saying the observation about walking with God every day and not just in the high and the low times. But for the most part, when I'm seeing somebody, whether a stranger or a friend, we talk about everyday stuff to try and get back to normal, right? We talk about the weather. We talked about, did you hear about the old Electromart station or plant? They're not going to use it for the medical marijuana. And, that was our profound conversation sometimes. But really, it's by noticing God in the everyday of when you're planting your garden, of harvesting, praying before meals, before you go to bed at night, whatever rituals help you to see God more day by day and to follow Him more nearly, love Him more dearly, of course, by loving others. That's what makes the journey worthwhile. But there are crisis times, obviously. Whether it's a competition where we have to get our game face on, or one's about to undergo a procedure at a hospital, or worse yet, in some ways, if a loved one is doing that, or we're trying to pray for them. That's when this Psalm 20, for me, really makes a lot of difference, and something I share with people. At the beginning, give you a little bit of the background of the psalm. It was a prayer that would be done by a king and or a high priest at the temple of Jerusalem right before they were about to go to war or be at war with somebody else. And so there would be blessings of God's favor. It was, I know, in war there's really never black or white. It's all very gray and murky. But the idea that somehow we can, try and live a good life and help others or rescue others, especially against bullies. One of the backgrounds to the verses, when I told the kids about some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we boast in the name of the Lord our God. The big bullies of the ancient world when this psalm was written were the Assyrians just to the north. And the reason the Assyrians were dominant was because of their use of chariots and horses, which a poor country like Israel was at this time wouldn't have much of. Furthermore, they were in the hill country where the Assyrians were in nice, flat, broad plains, and it was, they were the sort of the equivalent of tanks and artillery of the ancient world, where the Israelites had mostly just foot soldiers to try and beat back this superpower to the north of them. But they remembered how God and faith in God is even more important than military hardware, than the economic and physical strength of this world, that somehow by trusting in God and trying to live right and do well by others, helping them out sometimes, maybe God would bless them and grant this victory. Again, I try not to push the military analogy too far, especially when talking about God's activity in the world, but there's countless times in military history when just the will or strength of resolve of a small group, awfully of underdogs, has swung a battle or even a war. I know at the Battle of Gettysburg there was a flank to the Union Army which was almost crushed by the Southerners, which would have essentially made the North lose the battle, but a small troop of the people from Maine, I guess you might call them Mariners, but held the flank against overwhelming odds, and even running out of ammunition, they charged forward and scared the rebels back, and so the center was able to hold in the Union lines. Or for those in World War II, I can't imagine the courage it took in on D-Day, particularly the Battle of Normandy, when in Omaha Beach people had to run up on a terrainless beach with no cover whatsoever into machine gun emplacements that the Nazis had. But that was the deciding battle, at least in the Western Front, for World War II. And so we know that perhaps with God and by seeking God day by day and loving others, generally in far nicer ways, obviously, than battles and wars, but so sometimes those kind of radical interventions are necessary. But usually I think about battles in terms of cancer and overcoming illness. I do have to add one disclaimer too, and some people, and unfortunately I've seen them in hospitals too, think that faith alone can win the day sometimes and maybe not do all that they could and should to improve their situation or help their loved ones out. Best way to illustrate this is with a story, not a true story, but a fun story in some ways. There was a fellow who lived in the Mississippi Delta and had a house that was on the floodplain. The Mississippi regularly overflows its banks, and people have to get out of the way, of course, when that happens, except for this one gentleman who decided that if he prayed hard enough, God would save him. And so, sure enough, there was in the spring a lot of floodwaters, almost as bad as Williamson, I guess, experienced earlier this week. But they just got annoyed. They had overflowing drains. I don't know if you heard the torrential rains on Tuesday, but this Mississippi Delta is a little bit bigger, and they had warned people to evacuate the houses, but he said, nope, I'm going to pray, and God's going to save me. Well, sure enough, the floodwaters came, and it got up to the first story of his house, so he was on the second story. And then a boat came along. Some of his neighbors were evacuating, and they said, come on, get in our boat. We have to get out of here. He said, nope, I'm not getting in the boat. I'm going to pray, and God's going to save me. The waters got higher. He was just standing on the chimney. And this time a helicopter comes by. Some rescue workers saying, okay, this is imminent. We have to get you out of here. And he said, nope, I'm going to stay here. God's going to save me. Fortunately, the waters continued and the fellow did drown. And gets up to heaven and asks God, why didn't you save me? He said, well, I sent you, a boat, a helicopter, and furthermore, everybody told you not to be there in the first place. What more did I have to do? So we do have our own responsibilities to, do what we can, as well as, having faith and trusting in God. But eventually, too, we all, whether or not you are in a flooded Mississippi area, we all eventually do meet our Maker. We do. The body does change over time. One of the reasons I like to say that we don't have souls, we are souls. What we have is bodies, and they do change and eventually degrade. And one day we will meet God in heaven. But this beginning of life is sort of the prelude of that wonderful heavenly symphony. And there are things that we have to learn and be and become in this life. And the more that we do try and see God more clearly, love God more dearly, especially through loving God's children, which is others, and the world around us, we will ultimately follow Him more nearly and come to experience that heavenly communion. Thanks be to God, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. should add to our joys and concerns that Ken is doing better this weekend. I think he's being weaned off the medication which kept him sedated, and we'll hopefully have that breathing tube out soon. So there was some answered prayer and progress on that front. So please keep him in your prayers. And if you have any other joys or concerns, please raise your hand and Marvin will come your way. Yes, ready?
I just want to update you on the Smith family events. Our oldest grandson is recuperating quite well in Connecticut from a case of Lyme disease, and things are looking up. He was here a week ago, and I couldn't see any difference in him at all, except maybe he was more energetic than ever.
Okay.
And on the other end of the spectrum, our youngest grandson was born Thursday at Island Hospital, and Emmett John Charles Spring has entered the world to bring up the younger members of our grandchildren. So we've had quite a wonderful summer.
Okay, wow, that's a lot going on. All right, so Emmett John Charles, okay, the newest Smith, and what's your grandchild count up to now? 8. Okay, all right. Haven't quite beat Barb Youngman yet, but Arlene's definitely got all of us hands down. So, all right, thank you.
On a happy note, our second oldest son, Scott, and his family have arrived safely in New York after trucking across the top of the United States, getting lost in New York before they got here. So that's another story. And then on the sadder side, my mom is once again in New York Hospital.
Oh dear. Okay, sorry to hear that. Good to have Scott back in town.
I was a college student this past week, and so that was fun for me. I went to Nazareth College, and my course was called Interfaith Dialogue. So we covered all the major religions, each day a different one, sometimes 2 in one day. But it was very interesting. So there was an adult group, and then there was a teenage group, high school kids, because so many high schoolers are now exposed to a lot of different students from other countries, so it was really rich. And this is just one thing that we were given as one of the sayings that they're using in this interfaith dialogue. No peace among the nations without peace among the religions. And no peace among the religions without dialogue between the religions. And no dialogue between the religions without investigation of the foundations of the religions or the spinning religion, or without global ethical standards. So it was broad. It was broad. And besides that, there was 2 people that organized this, and they've done it for 5 years now. One was a Muslim man who's a professor at Nazareth, and that's Dr. Shafiq. And the other one is a Presbyterian, former Presbyterian minister. He's working with Presbyterian Home in the Rochester area. That's Gordon Webster. So it was rich.
All right, that sounds like a great dialogue and experience of sharing wisdom with people of very different backgrounds. Thank you.
We are most happy to have with us my son, Stuart, and daughter-in-law, Lynn, and for a very short trip. And also, I would like to announce that the Sparnans are going to be celebrating their anniversary later this week, and also the Strums will be celebrating their 60th anniversary later this week.
Wow. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate it. Okay, let me get those numbers again. All right, 60th, right? And that was Barnon? No.
55.
You're 55. Okay. And who's 60? You guys? You do? Oh my. Okay. I think it'll take. All right, good. All right. Very good. Any other joys or concerns today? All right. Let's bow our heads and pray. Dear God, we sometimes can only articulate with feelings more than words can say, more than our songs can sing, when our prayers are joyously on our heart or heavy on our heart for others and ourselves too in the midst of crises or of high points that we celebrate. Especially thank you for new grandchildren, for Emmett John Charles, and for a grandchild that is doing better or recuperating from Lyme's disease and the Smith family. Thank you for children who have returned for long times away, for Scott Lockwood, who is once again back in town, for the Stuart and Lynn Strong, who are back visiting, and especially for wonderful events like the Strong's 60th wedding anniversary and Spartans on 55. And God, there are just blessings every day if we look around, where take them all in. It is a wonderful world. God, pray for those who are still experiencing those prayers of distress and of crisis, for Dorothy, who is back in the hospital, for Ken, who is at some progress but also a setback this week. Pray especially too for interfaith dialogue, for in order to love others we have to at the very minimum talk to them and get to know each other and know that we're all your children. And hopefully then the Sunday the wolf will lie down with the lamb in your peaceful kingdom. God, hear all our prayers this week, both spoken and unspoken, as we pray your prayer which you taught your disciples. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. This time I'd ask the ushers to come forward for the offering. Part of trust is making words real. Let us do so through love and generosity through our offering today. of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob will protect you, and may God send you help from the holy sanctuary in heaven. Blessed be God's name. Amen.